All right. Thank you, Phil. Thanks, girls, for coming. So tonight we're talking about type 1 versus type 2 diabetes, and it's probably a lot of review, but please ask questions as we go, because we're a very small group. All right. So I'm Ida. I'm an RN diabetes educator, and I graduated in '94. And in nursing, and I did a little, the med-surg thing in the ICU, about a year. Not my cup of tea, but it was a good experience. And then when we moved to Butte, I did chemical dependency in Anaconda Hospital. But then Dr. DeSouza came, an endocrinologist, for a few years, and what an opportunity. So I worked with him. I was his office nurse, and I learned a lot about diabetes. And I became very amazed how much I didn't know, because there is a lot, and I definitely blamed the patient a lot as I was before then. And now I have a huge empathy for people with diabetes because it's not easy and it doesn't go away. And so I think that pushed me into this field. So that's been good. What do I push? Is the big button?
To the right arrow.
Oh, good. This is smart. So today we want to make sure we talk about the difference between type 2 and type 1 diabetes, some psychosocial concerns, like we were talking about. Those are huge, and the people who pick up on those are the diabetics. The nurses. The diabetics don't realize they have those usually. And then all the different meds, we'll talk about those and the insulins. This is our slide. This is a pancreas, and the pancreas is very important and is a real troublemaker in type 1 diabetes. So you need to know what you're treating. And with type 1 diabetes, it's absolute insulin deficiency. The pancreas is done. And it's autoimmune disease where our body eats up our beta cells so they don't make insulin. And I think it's important we can tell patients that, because if diabetes was named today, the word diabetes means sugary urine. And I think if it was named today, it'd have two different very names. It wouldn't be type 1 and type 2 diabetes. I think one would be called something totally different than the other one. So maybe cellitis or something like that for type 1 diabetes. And a lot of our younger people with type 1 diabetes just hate that it's called diabetes, because they're always said, you're diabetic, you're skinny. Or my grandpa's diabetic, he just takes a pill. Why do you do all this? Those types of myths that are out there. So type 1 diabetes is a huge autoimmune disease, treated with insulin always. And insulin's a protein, so we can't take it in pill form. And I try to tell that to patients too. It's a bummer, but it doesn't mean you're a bad diabetic on insulin. It's just how we have to dose it until we can learn more about how to give that. I'm always wondering why we can't do a patch. We do patches for Exelon, we do patches for pain meds. Why we can't do an insulin patch? But I'm sure somebody smarter than I thought of that. The average age for type 1 diabetes, we used to say it's always under 18, right? That was one of the parameters. If you're under 18, you're type 1. That's totally out the door. We have 3-year-old type 2 diabetics, So the average age has gone up, 14 to 40. And these are the guys that newly diagnosed. You see Tammy in ICU, they come into the ER, they start losing weight, I'm peeing all the time, I'm sick, I know I have cancer. They're 45 years old. Get their labs, they got a sugar 1200. No, you don't have cancer, you have type 1 diabetes. And those are the hardest ones to teach. The little guys, they kind of pick up on it. But they're typically lean people, and they're genetically set up, even though they might not be genetically set up for type 1 diabetes. So there's nobody in my family with this, how did I get it? Well, let's talk a minute. Anybody in your family have Crohn's disease, rheumatoid arthritis, celiac, eczema, all those autoimmune things, thyroid, usually hot on thyroid. So those are all things, for some reason, your body seems to fight itself and your family seems to. We have families in Butte that are just endocrine families, just autoimmune families, and it's very interesting. So less than 10% of the people with diabetes are type 1s. It's on the rise. And for some reason, we have a high number of kids in Butte compared to the national average. And years ago, we mentioned this to the CDC, and we looked a little bit at it, the Emerson School area I was always interested in. I was going to bust open some big hot topic. And some of the kids moved here, and they really couldn't pinpoint that. But we do seem to have a lot of type 1s right now compared to the national average with kids with type 1 diabetes. So the good news on that side is when we meet our older type 1s, and we go, when you were a kid, was there any other type 1 diabetics in town? And I'm like, no, just me. One guy, he's about my age, he comes in frequently because he's suffering the consequences of diabetes, and darn it. And he said, I thought I was the only diabetic in the world till I went to camp. And he went to camp when he was 11. So he spent 4 years thinking, that's sad, from 7 to 11, and then diabetes camp really changed his life, but what a bummer. So at least with the epidemic, there's other people. So the pills never worked, and sometimes they'll come into a clinic and they'll have a lot of yeast infections, a lot of boils, a lot of gingivitis, a lot of these problems, and dentists are picking up on it now. And I'll say, go to your doctor and you'll check them, they'll have a sugar of 350, but they'll be lean, they'll be 45, or maybe they'll be heavy in 45. And you're like, are you a 1, are you a 2? Sometimes the docs will try them on some metformin, send them home with a meter, call me in a week. They call in 3 days, 4 days. I still have these boils, I still have this whatever. And my sugars are still in the 300s. Okay, you're probably type 1 diabetic. Sorry, bud, we tried. Sometimes you start them on insulin, they're high, metformin later can wean off the insulin, their sugars are still good. Okay, we thought you were type 1, and you're really a type 2. That's sometimes better news. But insulin's usually got to be added pretty dang quick. So this picture, this little boy, he's very catatonic, dying, skinny. They used to call it starving disease, and these people just died. They just died. And here's his mom holding him. And then after insulin, and insulin for this boy was very big needles. He boiled in glass vials and all that stuff. But look, he's healthy, he's perked up. But I always like this slide, except this time I noticed, do you guys notice anything with their affect, all 3 pictures? I need a better picture. He's still sad. He's still pumped. And Mom's probably still sad. This little boy, he's probably in the 40s or 50s. I was looking at her hair. I don't know, trying to gauge. But people think I was in the 80s today with my hair. But anyways, so this little guy, he probably was told he couldn't have any fruit. He probably didn't have no sweets. Probably couldn't play with other kids. And probably suffered a lot of lows because we had no timing on our insulin. All insulin's the same IV, right? Tamiflu and DKA, we use R because it's the cheapest, but IV, it's all the same. Sub-Q, that's a board question. Sub-Q is how it breaks down. Well, this little guy had clumpy, terrible insulin that wasn't stable, so he's still sad. So I need a picture of our nowadays kids that are puny, have dark circles under their eyes, have IVs in, and then a year later they're playing basketball. And we have our academic Hall of Fame in Butte for the grade school kids. And last year there were 4 type 1 kids. Out of 16 kids, the 4 smartest kids were they were type 1 diabetics up there. So I loved it, loved it. So anyways, the insulin saves their lives, but still not easy. So any questions on type 1 diabetes? You guys know there's more and more of it. Type 2 diabetes is complex. That's the moral of my definition here. So it's insulin resistance as well as insulin deficiency. It's a little bit harder, more complicated disease. And then you throw in social, behavioral, environmental risk factors that bring it on faster and make it a little bit more trickier to control. Depends on the person. I don't know if it's trickier to control, but it's harder for us because every patient's a lot more different than type 1 management. So when the 80-year-old ladies say, how did I get this? I've never had such a thing. I've always been healthy. And you say, well, that's why you just got it, because you've always been healthy. The environmental, social, behavioral things didn't happen. You lived a healthy life. Now you have it because you're 80. But it is a complex disorder. And I think we get frustrated as healthcare providers, and I know it's getting better, but you hear a lot of things and you see a lot of HMPs and progress notes from, I mean, nationally this is an issue with us educators is, oh, just don't eat white at night, you know. Doctors mean well. They have, what do they say, 4.5 minutes in a doctor's visit now. And they say, oh, just watch the sweets or lose some weight. Those kinds of statements that are sort of blaming statements. The doctor doesn't mean to, but it's way more complicated than that. Send them to diabetes education. We'll go head to toe. It's not that easy as no white at night. I mean, what's that? No okra, no potatoes. Doesn't make sense. But you need to know what you're treating. So type 2s, it isn't just insulin deficiency. Usually they're half the insulin is being produced that they need when they're diagnosed. So people don't go to the doctor. People come in for other things, DOT physicals, those types of things. They're usually at half their insulin production when it's diagnosed. So whose fault is that? Nobody's. Nobody's. Your pancreas is pooping out. And then insulin resistance, and you know, if these are every cell in our body, this is what I try to tell patients. You guys tell your patients this, you probably already do, but every cell in our body is affected with this disease. It's not because you didn't go to the gym for a year. It's not because you ate all the shepherd's candy, those types of things. But our cells need sugar. Let's keep it basic with them. Our cells need sugar. And when you're type 2 diabetic, they don't open up for the sugar. So we make insulin. Insulin teams up with sugar and goes to every cell in our body. The cells won't let them in. They don't cooperate. And most of the time, type 2 diabetics have more cells, right? More fat cells. So here's my fat blob that I'm very fond of. And this is 5 pounds of fat. But fat needs sugar too, right? So if we've got extra weight, which most type 2s have that survivor body, it's very hard to get the sugar into every cell to keep your blood sugar level down. Because if you can't get in a cell, where does it go? Back in the blood, where it causes problems. So insulin resistance is a very, very, very big thing that we're starting to talk more and more about, but it's a big part of pre-diabetes as well. So the cells don't get the sugar, the pancreas isn't making the sugar well enough. Any ideas the #1 thing to fight insulin resistance? Something we can all do? Exercise. Exercise. The diabetes prevention program, exercise was more effective than 10 years of metformin. So, and then we have
some supplements that are harking that, you know, they help, like chromium and cinnamon, you know, they're kind of going through this phase now where you take all these little supplements and they're supposed to help with insulin uptake.
They're supposed to help. It's supposed to help. Nothing proven, you know. Cinnamon won't hurt you. You know, of course we worry because nothing's FDA approved. Mm-hmm. So I do have a lot of patients, not as many as when it first hit about 5 years ago, was it? And you know, they're buying these cinnamon tablets, but really you don't know what's in them. They could have made the bottle a little bit smell like cinnamon. But the chromium can hurt you if you get too much, especially if you have early microalbuminuria in your kidneys. If you're showing some wear and tear in your kidneys, you can over-chromium yourself and burn out your kidneys. So, you know, natural doesn't always mean safe, but it's hope. And you know, what if cinnamon did help insulin resistance? Everybody likes cinnamon. I mean, put it on your brownies. I mean, that's where we're at in society. McDonald's would have it on everything because maybe that would counteract where we're at. You know, we know fruits and vegetables help. We know healthy living helps, but for some reason that isn't happening for lots of reasons. So yeah, anything. We know exercise is good. So because we ran out of meds that help insulin resistance, and I'll talk to that. And then our liver stores sugar, and we don't talk about this enough, but we call it Pooh Bear's honey pot. And our liver stores sugar and releases it at the wrong times. Our leaky liver. So if people don't eat for long periods of time, their liver will actually release gluconeogenesis, kids that are right in school. So that's a big word. Mm-hmm. But we make extra sugar when we shouldn't. We also make extra glucagon from the liver that raises our sugar. Every hormone in our body raises sugar except for insulin. Every hormone. So I just saw a lady in the hall, she says, I'm hyperthyroid, and I saw in my lab work my blood sugar was up. Well, maybe partly because you're hyperthyroid. You know. So every hormone does. So the liver is leaking sugar, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So those are the 3 big things in type 2 diabetes, and those are big. That's every cell in our body, our biggest organ, and our pancreas is pooped out. So I love when people go, I got this disease because I'm overweight. Well, no, you know, you didn't. So it's the last disease we beat up the patient because it involves weight and food and activity. We'd never tell a cancer patient, well, if you wouldn't have been so heavy. I mean, we don't do that. So the average age used to be 55 to 70. That was within my little life here, 2010 on, my diabetes life. So it's come down drastically, and this is what the CDC is always talking about. You guys, our little kids that are struggling with their weight are the canaries in the coal mine. Heck with the baby boomers. They already all have diabetes because they're that age. But oh my goodness, it's come down that far since early 2000s. They typically they're heavy. And one patient said, we're all gut, no butt. And I thought that was so funny because it's kind of true. From behind, little legs, little rear end. But then this is where the weight stays, that survivor body. So when people come in and they're this, you know, they're big belly guys, and they go, you're not going to believe this, I have diabetes and sleep apnea. And I'm thinking, I don't say that, but I'm like, well, yeah, I bet you do. But that's where the weight is hard to lose. They have that survivor body, and they've done a lot of research with our cultural groups that are very high incidence, Native Americans in our neck of the woods. African Americans, Latinos. Why do they have 1 in 2 with prediabetes or diabetes? We, and the Caucasian European population is 1 in 3, still terrible, but why are they higher? A lot of it's that survivor body. You know, 2 centuries ago, if you were skinny, you died out in a winter or famine or those types of things. The chubbier ones survived, right? And our ancestors probably survived it. So it was a great body to have back then. Nowadays, when we aren't killing our food before it kills us and aren't dealing with famines, and it's not the best body, a lot more sitting. So 90% of the diabetics are type 2s. Now what else comes with type 2 diabetes? And people say, I'm diabetic, I don't want to lose my legs, I don't want to lose my eyes. We know they probably won't, but a heart attack or stroke's gonna nail them is what we worry. So these guys have to worry a lot. Your friend who's type 1, yeah, she can't stop and have a burger, she can't snowmobile another hour, she's got to think about food, exercise, those kinds of things. Type 2s have to think about the long term a lot more, I think. High blood pressure almost always comes with it. High triglycerides, high LDL, low HDL, almost always. So you get the guy who hadn't been to the doctor since his Korean War physical. He comes in and he's falling apart and he doesn't know why. When he leaves with a prescription pad this high, because these things run together. I think we need to tell patients that. Now I have high cholesterol. Yeah. And the other thing is controlled diabetics that maybe fall off the wagon a little bit, then come back to take care of themselves. If you have high blood sugars, your liver makes more glycerol. You have high triglycerides. So that's a hopeful thing to tell people. Okay, your trigs are high, but they might come down when your sugars get better. Don't check them until your sugars are better. And then LDL, of course, goes down and trigs go up. So exercise can help raise your HDL. What does Dr. Pullman always say? Low HDL, that's genes. You know, you're not going to have an HDL 70 like your friend, you know, like the Dean girls. You're not going to, because you've got the genes. And that's depressing, but I don't think he says that to patients. So anyways, we work hard on this.
I blame my mother for all of this.
Yes, I'm sure she's a nice person, but she gave you a lot of this, Tammy. And modern lifestyle and just different things. But if we neglect one area of this, we had a lady at Community Health, and she agonized over her sugars. Type 2 diabetic, she was on insulin, and her sugars were beautiful, A1C under 6. I want my sugar diabetes controlled. She was deathly afraid. She wouldn't take her blood pressure pills. They'd run out, they made her sleepy, and she had a massive stroke. And it wasn't, oh, it was horrible. She worked so hard, but we couldn't sell that to her, and maybe we didn't try hard enough. She wouldn't take an aspirin, and she wouldn't take her blood pressure pills. It stunk. So then she was left side paralysis, you know, not fair. So it's a heart disease, and I tell you that. It's not a pancreas disease, not a sugar disease, it's not a food disease, it's a vessel disease. So, all right, so we'll harp on it a little bit more, and then I'll quit, I promise you. So insulin resistance is like the hinge on the door that's rusty. You can't get you need to grease it with exercise or something. Cinnamon, whatever it is, Tammy, so that you can get the sugar in the cells where it needs to be used. Insulin deficiency is a pooped out pancreas and then a leaky liver, and we had a liver with a water spout. Sorry, this is what we use in diabetes class, and I think it's important if we all can say the same things kind of to patients. Don't forget your liver's involved. So people that might have alcohol problems, teenagers drinking, what happens is we always have to assess for that, and it's younger and younger and younger. I'm not real good at that, but I know you're not partying, but let me tell you about, you know, having a few beers. And what happens is the liver has to detox that alcohol, and it can't make sugar. So they're at a risk of a very, very low sugar. People always say, oh, beer has a lot of carbs, and he drinks all the time, and his diabetes is bad. His diabetes is probably bad because his self-care is bad in general. But you worry more about the lows acutely from alcohol. So assess for that, and bossing is around. So how do you know you're insulin resistant? We joke that you're under tall. If we were all tall enough, we'd all be skinny. But usually you have that extra weight right here, and you can tell. A couple other ways to see if people are insulin resistant. Insulin deficiency, your sugars are high. Your blood sugars are high before, after you eat, during your meal, all the time, because you just don't have enough insulin to pull the sugar out of the blood. And then, how do you know you have a leaky liver? And this is always an eye-opener for people that are pre-diabetic or early diabetic. Their A1C is high, 6.5 is diabetes. Their A1C is 6.6, 6.7. I don't think I have it. They check their sugars, and it's pretty good. I say, check it 2 hours after you eat, and they make a liar out of me. They go, it was 108. I'm like, well, maybe you don't have diabetes. I go, well, that's good. Your pancreas worked. But check it before you go to bed and check it in the morning. They'll check it before bed and they might be 118, and in the morning they might be 148. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, oh, because you have a leaky liver. And that just means overnight, a long period without eating, the liver's making sugar. And sometimes the way to fix that, the dietitians will tell folks, is eat a bedtime snack. People eat at 4:30 at night. Regimented people don't eat all night, get up in the morning, may or may not eat breakfast. Their sugar goes up because their liver says they're starving. The other thing happens is they don't lose weight. I only eat 1 meal a day and I can't lose weight.
But doesn't that go in the fly in the face of everything we've been told as we were growing up? It's like, if you shouldn't eat before you go to bed, and I
You'll
still
gain
think
more
that,
weight.
yeah, if you
I
eat
know.
before you go to bed, you're going to have heartburn, you're going to be fat,
Yeah.
and all
Quite a bit
this
hungry.
stuff.
But Tammy, we were taught not to eat eggs. We were taught that calories is all that mattered. And things change, you know what I mean, like that. But you do, when you're diabetic, we say every 5 hours something. It doesn't have to be a bowl of noodles, you know what I mean? My favorite bedtime snack that I don't do anymore. But it could be a yogurt or cheese and crackers or something. Oftentimes, especially in the early diabetics that still are making insulin, their sugars are good 2 hours postprandial, but they go to bed and then they wake up with a higher sugar. They do better if they have a bedtime snack. And they go, you're telling me to eat more so my sugar comes down? It makes no sense. Very seldom is your morning sugar high because of what you ate the night before. Very seldom. So people go, unless it's pasties or pizza, or Chinese. But usually you say, okay, I'll have a piece of toast and some peanut butter before I go to bed, and then they wake up and their sugar's okay. Their body, their liver's saying, okay, I don't have to make sugar, they're fine. They also might lose weight. Breakfast makes you lose weight. But we were told in the Jane Fonda area with calories, don't eat so many calories. People eating 700 calories a day and not losing weight, especially now because we're all so heavy. Definitely. So that's how you know if your liver's leaking, usually if you go a long time and your sugar's going up. So these three things work together. So medicines, since diabetes is an epidemic, there's more meds. And there's meds to work at all areas of type 2 diabetes, which is good. It's good to have tools in the toolbox, but darn it, they aren't as great. We aren't finding them to be as great as we hoped, but we're hoping that something better is to come. They're on the right lines. So it's big money. So insulin resistance, you have TZDs, Actos and Avandia. They work great till we found out they caused sudden death in the Cleveland trial, and now nobody uses them. But they did help with that cell wall open up. People that were on 200 units of insulin a day started taking Actos. It took 6 weeks to kind of work. 6 weeks later, they were on 120 units a day. Made everything more sensitive. It's a beautiful medicine for 10 years in the Cleveland trial. So it's actually, Avandia is actually black labeled. If you aren't already on it, doctors can't start it. Actos, I haven't seen a script for in a long time. I wouldn't take them, darn it. But, so that's all we got for insulin resistance besides exercise. I mean, the diabetic gods are telling us something. Get moving, right? So the insulin deficiency, we have insulin, but then we have the sulfonylureas, and we're seeing less and less of those. And in-house, they usually get DC'd while they're here, right? But glipizide, glyburide, glucotrol. Glyburide in the VA study, high incidence of strokes. So we still see it sometimes. It's cheap, it's old, but that's one I've gotten to advocate a little bit for because it ups stroke risk in somebody who's already got a high stroke risk. So glyburide, don't use it. But glucotrol, it still has a place, and it makes your insulin a little more powerful. And the 80-year-old lady that just needs a little bit of something, might have a bad stomach, doesn't want to take the metformin, might have too high of a creatinine, just from being old, can't take the metformin. Sulfonylureas have a place, but you have to tell people to eat every 4 hours. They come to the ER because they take their pill and all they had that day was eggs, not their toast like usual, or their milk. And then they went to play bridge in the morning instead of the afternoon because they had a hair appointment, whatever. And they crashed because it kicks in 4 hours and kicks in hard. So it's not a medicine you ever want to see anybody take at night. Never at night, because it does kick in hard and they get a low and they fall. So the ones with the bumps on their heads, God bless them, it's because they didn't, nobody taught about carbs because it's just a little pill, but they do suffer lows. So I don't love SUs, but there's a place for them. And then metformin, which is my favorite. It's generic, it's been around forever. It works at the leaky liver. We didn't know how it worked for a long time. Metformin, the side effect is a little weight loss, which is a plus, average 8 pounds, nothing major, but you have to start it slow. And as nurses, docs are good at it now, but we have to remind them. 500 at supper, and then 500 breakfast and supper after the first week, then 1,000 QD and 500 QD, and then up to 2,000 max for the day, 1,000 BID. You have to go over a week's time, because what happens, people take 1,000 milligrams BID, and they puke their guts out, they have diarrhea, they have bloating, and they say, I can't take that. And you're like, we're running out of meds. You know what I mean? And it's like, give it a try, please. And I tell people, it was started way too fast. Try it again. It's always almost tolerated, and if you do have some GI symptoms, they're almost always transient. Please try metformin or glucophage again. It's $5 a month. I don't know. I think we should have it in the water. It's indicated for prediabetes. It's the only one for prediabetes. But now we have the incretins, and we're very excited about them, but not as excited as we used to be. So these work at our gut. We know our gut, when we eat, we get increase in DPP-4, that raises our sugar, and these help inhibit that DPP-4 raise. So there's a whole symphony of hormones in our body when we have diabetes, whole symphony of things going on. It isn't you eat, your sugar goes up, you don't eat, your sugar comes down. It isn't that easy. So these meds, they work at the gut, and I'm hopeful our next group of these meds will be a little better. They're expensive. These two are shots. This one's once a day, and this one's the same medicine twice a day. They do have, where's Dr. Pullman? I don't see the weight loss results that he saw in his studies in my patients, and maybe that's because when they're in a study, they pay a little more attention. I don't know. But there isn't the weight loss that we were hoping. And if there's weight loss, then your diabetes is better. But they're not cheap. And all of these lower your A1C less than 1%. So if someone's on a sulfonylurea on the max of metformin and their A1C is 11, they're exercising as much as they're gonna, adding one of these isn't gonna do it. They're weight neutral. You don't gain or lose weight, but you know, $150. These two are shots, so it's a tough sell. What we do hope, what Dr. Corsi from Missoula always says, is that they will slow down the progression of diabetes. But give yourself 2 shots a day, $140 a month, and your sugars won't come down very much. But trust me, it might slow down your diabetes. Nobody falls for it, but we're hoping. So these work at the gut. So hopefully there's something better to come. But it's not uncommon to have somebody on this and a couple here, and still not have good control. So then we have to talk about insulin. And we talk about insulin right away when they're first diagnosed. And we tell them, if you get a pneumonia or get your knee done, you're in St. James, you're going to get shots of insulin, because bacteria and viruses love sugar, and we want your sugar low. Diabetics already have an extended length of stay. We don't want any more. It's gotten better nationwide. So any questions on these meds? There's a lot of meds, oodles of meds. Where do you start? Well, the ADA says first thing is lifestyle therapy. So you call me, we'll get them into class, call Denise V, call somebody who does education, and metformin. We used to just say diet and exercise, right? The words we don't use anymore, but we used to say just do that. Well, metformin doesn't hurt anything. Just take it. It'll help you. And then if they're not under 7% with their A1C, you can think about a sulfonylurea, but you can definitely think about a shot of insulin. People go, gee, I'm 8.5, I'm newly diagnosed, and they're giving me a shot of insulin. I thought that was for bad diabetics. It lowers sugars, right? Easy for me to say. I'm not taking it. And then, if one shot at night isn't working, you might have to go up to mealtime doses. It's a progressive disease. If people live long enough, they're going to be on mealtime insulin. It's not a punishment. It's an expensive pain in the neck, but it's better. Once people are on insulin, they should drop the glyburide, glucotrol, but don't drop the metformin. It used to be a myth. Well, now you're like a type 1. Now you're off all the orals and we're starting insulin. No, that tells people they failed, and metformin still helps the liver. So keep them on it. But if you stay on the glipizide or the sulfonylurea, you've got one more peak involved. It's too confusing. Okay. So these are less validated, and we talked about them. We know Actos and Avandia aren't working out. The incretins, the ones we talked about, Januvia, Onglyza, Combiglize, Byetta, and Victoza, there's no hypoglycemia, no weight gain or weight loss, and they're spendy. They're spendy. They're in the cupboards. Doctors that are taking samples, you can always tell, mean well, help their patients. why are you on Januvia? It's the only thing you're on, because it was in the cupboard. You know, it was free. This guy didn't have any way to pay for meds, so we tried. And this just kind of talks about incretins, but what they do at the stomach is help your insulin work a little better, suppress glucagon secretion at the liver, and help our blood sugars, and they're supposed to help us not be hungry. What a few studies say is in controlled